welcome back, and thank you very much for staying with us. We are still talking about money laundering in Uganda, which is a big issue biting on our economy and our public institutions. And I am with COUNCIL-DERRICK here on set with me. We've talked about the consequences of this sin, if I can call it, of money laundering. We've also talked about what the law says and what can actually happen to you when you get to participate. Now, we wanted to shift the discussion to the investigations. Recently, I was reading about a case of Mr. Serwamba, who colluded with some other conspirators back in 2015, when this law had actually just been effected. And these 6 people actually colluded in order to get money from 2 South Sudanese accounts, and they used this money to do different things, buying luxurious cars, buying big plots of land, and so on and so forth. And the case was actually concluded in court, and they were charged with embezzlement and causing financial loss, forgery, conspiracy to defraud, and money laundering, which is the case now we are talking about. But in this investigation, there were quite many challenges, and I want to put these challenges to you, Council. One of the challenges we are still facing is witness protection. Many people are afraid. Even I think you've experienced it since you've been to court, where people are saying, no, I don't think I'm ready to go and give information to court. Concerning this, I'm afraid of my life, and they're right, because we've seen people who have had acid attacks, who have had people come in the night and they murder them because they are participating in this. Can you talk a little bit about this challenge that is still lingering around these laws?
Now, it's quite interesting about the case you've just quoted. Now, I have reservations as a practitioner, and I fault in this particular case the investigators. I think they looked for the small fish and left out the big. We are talking about the sums of $1.5 million US coming from a South Sudanese national. Now, the inside traders who are bank employees, bank managers, and all that. Now, what money laundering targets is the source. What is lost, you see, that's like an orchestra. The case is like an orchestra. There's a lot of noise, you see. But what is lost in the amount of noise there is the origin of the $1.5 million US. Now, it goes back to the quality of investigations. Yes, the convicts or the suspects or the accused persons in that case got their share, and they were charged under the Anti-Corruption Act, which is a slap on the wrist when it comes to money laundering. The real question would have been, where was the origin of the $1.5 million US? You see, the writing is on the wall, you understand, and there are telltale signs. You see, the problem with that case is that the investigators kissed and they never told, you understand? The source of the $1.5 million US is the real question. If we are to benefit the viewers in relation to anti-money laundering, it's not the conviction of a person, a Ugandan who went on a shopping spree and a frenzy and bought a Mercedes-Benz worth 50 million and then a plot of land worth 100 million. What happened to over 3 billion Ugandan shillings? Where did it go? Did it go to Al-Shabaab? Did it go to ADF? Did it go to Chifes? Did it go to corruption? Where did it go? We cannot find that through that. So, prosecutions under the Financial Intelligence Authority must be prosecutions geared towards holding the big fish, you understand? Entering and tracing international global transactions, not local players like the convicts. They ought to have asked the pertinent question, what is the source of funding? Most especially coming from South Sudan, which has issues. It is still a young nation without systems. Dollars are flowing in and out. They are a source of illicit gun trade. They are a source of illicit drug trade. They are a source of terrorism. Uganda's #1 terrorist, Joseph Kony, hides in South Sudan or the forests of Garamba. So what the Financial Intelligence Authority and the government of Uganda ought to do. Money laundering is not your everyday chicken thief. This is crime at a global level. Crime that can bring down government. Crime that needs sophistication. Crime that needs a lot of funds to investigate, to prosecute. I actually require or suggest that government should put specialized prosecutors. They should put specialized criminal system to curb the danger of money laundering. Specialized, well-trained, well-sophisticated, well-funded, and well-shielded or protected investigators and prosecutors. The Financial Intelligence Authority, headed by I think Mr. Asubo, can do very much with the kind of attention it gets from government. It can only rely on the IGG or the DPP to have these fellas prosecuted for causing financial loss and corruption. How about terrorism that has capacity to bring down government and the state? So I think our government needs to pay more attention on what's going around under money laundering, so that we have fair and balanced, but also very clear transactions and operations to safeguard both Ugandans and their property. And their property, we're talking about land, we're talking about lives, we are talking about the right to have a prosperous economy and pursuit for happiness. You cannot do that by sending these files to the CIID or opening up a general file at Kabalga police station. This is not how it operates, because the mafia or the deep state, even state actors, you've seen the war in Ukraine and Russia. Ukraine has accused Iran of sponsoring drone attacks on Kyiv, Kharkiv, and Kherson. You've seen what the Western powers have done, impounding yachts of Russian oligarchs, switching Russia off SWIFT. This is what you're dealing with. You're not dealing with someone who is interested in buying a used Japanese Mercedes-Benz. You are interested, you should be, or government should be interested in a person who has the capacity to overthrow government or collapse the state's financial system through money laundering.
But still, the public, they still have this, the lack of protection, the witness protection. I don't know if we have it, but if we had a witness protection law in place, then maybe some of the people who would actually be coming out to talk about this would not be afraid. And also not just money laundering, but many other cases in court. We still have people afraid of coming out to give evidence, that this is what really happened. Don't you think we need this law in place as well, and also affecting it more than even these other laws as well?
Now, you see, Uganda is not a welfare state. People are not paid for not working. And the president has uttered it several times. It means Uganda will not pay attention to some of the things that ensure that the citizens pursue happiness. One, it does not have the luxury or the money to do so. Witness protection requires repatriation, identity changing, funding someone for some time until they give evidence against a drug lord, keeping someone safe through prosecutorial authorities until they give evidence against a general, a minister, or a high-profile government official. Without that government official buying off the protectors to reach to their target and then liquidate. Now, you need a robust state, a state that has the ability to finance its operation, a state that is corruption-free, a state that has its citizens pay taxes. In the absence of that, it may be hard to have a law on witness protection, but it's a needed law. It is, because if you're going to give evidence against El Chapo, not these common gang chiefesses in Kampala, but El Chapo, if you're going to give evidence against Assange, If you're going to give evidence against a chief executive of Bank of America, or against Elon Musk, against Aliko Dangote, you must do more than opening up a CRB number at a police station in Kabalagala.
True.
Yes.
And now, digital forensics is one of the other challenges. Now, majority of money laundering cases inevitably make use of digital devices. These include mobile phones, laptops, and the like. And in this case, which we have here as a case study, Mr. Serwaba, who was the chief suspect, for instance, was involved in a WhatsApp video with some other conspirators posing with their recently stolen bundles of US dollars. It also involved a forged email purportedly sent by the Juba branch manager to Serwamba, indicating that the two account holders were to make the transactions in Kampala. Now, you've talked about us running away from cash and getting into cashless transactions, but these have still been penetrated. And now looking at our very weak technological systems here in Uganda, where we can even fail to track sometimes a phone call, on a SIM card. How can we put this in place? How can we put digital forensics in place and make sure we can track people, whether they were online or whether they were offline as well?
Now, I'm a realist, and as a practitioner, I'm a realist in regards that I look at the law as it is, not as the law as it ought to be. Now, since time immemorial, laws or sanctions have never stopped crime. They prohibit. They are prohibitive in nature. They make a person second guess if they are about to commit crime. A person is allowed to linger, dance around or border criminality and not cross over into the realm of criminality.
That's like being tempted is not a sin.
Yes, you're dreaming about committing a crime is what we call a mens rea, the mental state. Is still a half-baked crime. It must have an actus reus, the commission of the crime itself, for it to be a complete crime. So the laws will not succeed from time immemorial to eliminate crime, but they'll prohibit. Now, what needs to be done is a role of the regulator, the role of the policeman, the role of government, to make sure it is to make sure it is painful. You understand? To make sure that it is you carry on crime at your own risk. It is risky business.
It's a heavy cost.
It is a heavy cost to launder money. Now, what are the consequences? And that is what, as a practitioner, that's what I look at the laws and then question myself. If a person is going to be convicted of corruption, and then they still hold their house or their businesses, I mean, that's a slap on the wrist. I'll come back, count my losses and do it again because it's lucrative. But you see, the laws must be there must be a thorn in the flesh. They must be able to inflict a lot of pain, and that pain must be prohibitive, and it must be it must act as an example to the others not to commit. Now, if you send the accused persons to jail for 2.5 years, and then we cannot account, the judgment does not tell us where the 3 billion went. You understand? They will come back because it is lucrative to do money laundering. The risks and the benefits are way much higher because it gets you rich faster. It gets you rich quickly than the consequences of the sanctions in the law. So the law is a paper is a paper tiger. It's a toothless bulldog. It can't bite because it is not risky business to engage in money laundering in Uganda. Now that is a question of policymakers, the police, the executive, the cabinet, the legislature, and the judiciary, to come up with a holistic approach to how to prevent. You understand? So if you want good investigators, you will take them to Harvard for training. If you want good investigators, you will motivate them by paying them well. If you want good investigators, you will equip them with the technology.
Yes.
We have just transitioned from analog to digital in the media world, you understand? So the government has the duty to create policy to remove, to make sure all transactions are paperless. You understand? Paperless transactions, digital transactions, in a view to curb money laundering. Because if we still operate what we call a cash economy, Uganda and all its businesses are red flags for money laundering. Look everywhere, the telltale signs. It's just that people don't want to talk about it, but that's what we suffer if the policymakers, the executive, the president, the Speaker of Parliament, the members of Parliament, the judiciary do not give or pay attention to such issues. Judges will be robbed, they will be scammed, their mobile money will be withdrawn, and they will have nothing to do about it. Intelligence officers will be robbed, they will be duped, they will be defrauded because money laundering knows no. It's the high mafia, the gangbangers. They don't know authority, they are the wild, wild west. And it is more lucrative in Uganda to launder money than the sanctions provided by the law.
True. And the cost also of investigation, you sometimes get into it, and it's a huge one.
If a police officer doesn't have their housing is not taken care of, a money launderer will give them a house in Munyonyo.
True. And they'll be silent.
And the file will go to the dustbin.
True.
So it is a policy question, and I think it comes to the will of government, because I told you money laundering is a cancer, stage 4 cancer. If you allow it progress from stage 1, where chemo can be applied, chemo or surgical operation, to stage 4 where you cannot, you have to say your goodbyes, then you will send the country into stone age, and we'll all suffer the consequences of money laundering.
True.
Yes.
Now, still on the concept of money laundering, this is relatively a new concept to many stakeholders in the criminal justice system in Africa. An observation borne out during especially numerous international center for asset recovery institutes. This is an institute that gets to recover some of the assets and gets people to actually declare some of their wealth, especially in big public institutions. When it comes to asset recovery, let's say, okay, now we have a case in court and this person is convicted. Like you said, they're going to service a certain sentence, maybe in jail, and maybe pay some cash. But the recovery of the assets or the damage done, how can we effect this? Because, like you said, we know the disease is there, the cancer is there, and it's eating really fast. And if it's eating, it means people are committing these crimes, and if all goes well, they will be captured at some point. But then the asset recovery, the damage done, how can we recover completely? How can we create a system in which we can fast track people's assets? There was a recent something in government by the IGG's office, declare wealth. It was telling politicians to declare wealth, and he was running around.
Lifestyle audit.
Exactly, lifestyle audit. people were hiding. So how can we really recover what is lost in case we get to succeed through all the court sessions and we get the law enforced? How can we keep the recovery bit of it and get to recover what we've lost?
Now, Uganda must be committed to tracing. A person who cannot give accountability for the source of wealth and the assets that they have, it is a red flag that those persons are involved in money laundering. Government should have the teeth to bite and confiscate, so that these assets are taken back to the true beneficiaries. Those are the people of Uganda. Now, this is a very bitter pill. It's a bitter pill to swallow by government, because I told you earlier that the persons who are involved in organized crime are people in the echelons of power, are politicians, are well-placed people, are people in the intelligence services, are people in the military, the people with the capacity to pull off a stunt like the one they did Equity Bank. A person who has the capacity to pull off terrorism financing is a person who is well connected. Is a person who is so slippery and sophisticated. It's a person you do not put in. You may never even see them. They are faceless people. Now, the Baganda say in Swabo Chusa Amaso now go choose envuo. So if money laundering is an evil that's coming to devour us as a nation, that's coming to disrupt our way of life, it's to destroy our peace, then it's not possible for government to sit around and say, hey, it doesn't concern me, I stay in Munyonyo, I stay in Kororo. It will eventually come and eat you up. Sure. It will eat you up in once you go to see a World Cup match and then a bomb goes off. It will eat you up if your ancestral grounds will be taken over by uninvested property real estate developer who has poured a lot of money into police, army to come and evict the whole village. It will eat you up if you went into that hospital, a public hospital that is supposed to be financed by government, and government does not have the money to pay for the medicine and to pay the health workers. You lose a loved one. You see, money laundering is unequivalent to the death of the firstborn in the Egyptian times. It affects every single person. So my call, and I implore those in government to pay much more attention. Trace. I told you in Uganda it's possible to get rich overnight. By the time we end this show, you'll be broke. A few minutes after the show, you'll be a billionaire in dollars. And tomorrow, as the saying goes, ojoga. You understand? And that's why when you look at how they spend this money, because it's illicit money, they spend it on things that do not even develop the nation. They will not spend it on hospitals because it's easily traceable. You cannot build a hospital of $100 million US. They will ask. They will spend it in cars. They'll spend it in bars. They'll spend it gambling. They'll spend it on drugs. They'll spend it on distortion of our social moral fiber, introduction of behavior. I have had it I've had money laundering manifest itself through issues like production of homosexuality in our country. This is funded. This is money laundering. You know it's illegal. It's a crime to engage in such activities here. But money laundering can manifest itself there. It can manifest itself in issues like nyege nyege.
Yes.
It's been there. It's been in churches. It has disrupted our way of life. You can't run away from it. To run away from it is to act like an ostrich and put your head in the sand. It's coming for you. It's coming for your children. It's coming for your government. It's coming for your cultural leader. It's coming for your mother. It's coming for your pastor. It's coming for your bishop. So the Baganda say okwelinda tebuba tuti ate ekijomanyi kikola ki kinyaga bitono nnyo. So it's better for government to pay attention, equip our intelligence services, empower the Financial Intelligence Authority, equip it to be up to date with the schemes that the mafia or the money launderers use to disrupt our way of life. Money laundering is about our way of life as Ugandans. It's not political. It has no shades of politics. It's just being a Ugandan and having peace and development, fair peace, a common platform for pursuit of happiness. And that's what government is for. We elect government for pursuit of happiness, to have our land protected, to have our children protected, to walk free and be free from anyone without fear or favor. If terrorists are there, you can't. The president once said, if you think peace is cheap, try to put up a potato garden in Mogadishu.
True. Well, thank you very much, Council. Ladies and gentlemen, We are talking the Money Laundering Act, Anti-Money Laundering Act, matter of fact, and I'm with COUNCIL-DERRICK. We've talked mainly about some of the problems this big issue has brought to our country and our public institutes here in Uganda, and what can be done. Now, there's an amendment in Parliament this year of this act, and when we come back for our final segment, we want to look into what are some of the amendments in this act that should be made for us to achieve the goal of zero money laundering here in Uganda. Also, there's an aspect called proliferation financing. This is financing, of course, for different biological, chemical, and other disastrous substances that lead to probably terrorism, which we have also seen here in Uganda. How can we also tackle this? I'm with COUNCIL-DERRICK. My name is Anthony. We are taking a quick break. We'll return shortly. Stay with us.
Smart 24